CEO mocks janitor, threatens to fire. Son makes him regret. My back hurts. Nick complained to his dad. The young man had recently joined his father at Todd's cleaning agency, and the job was far from spectacular. Overworked and minimally paid, the father and son looked at each other with tears in their eyes. They had come to the country wanting to live the American dream, but they ended up in a situation that was far from it. The owner of the agency was a nasty man who often insulted his employees. But little did they know that the wheel of fortune was changing for all of them. Being a janitor was hard work. They had to scrub dirty walls and constantly mop floors that people were walking on, only to receive a small paycheck at the end of the month. One day Nick decided he had enough, and he said to his father, "I can't waste my life away like this." His father looked at him with a sad smile. "I'm sorry, son, but my salary alone ain't enough to cover the bills. I never wanted this life for you either." The old man began to sob silently. While the two were having their heartfelt discussion, a stranger walked towards them. "I know, Dad. But I just can't take it anymore. I think we should quit and find a better opportunity." Nick was adamant about his suggestion and hoped his father would agree. He knew his father was scared of their boss, but Nick wouldn't let him be bullied. The old man reminded Nick that the job was stable even though it was tedious. While they were wrapping up the conversation, their boss approached them. He was clad in a smart navy suit and seemed bothered by the chatter from these two workers. When Todd, their boss, came to the area where they were cleaning, he saw the two men talking. He didn't appreciate that they had been working without a break. Todd lashed out at them. "Why are you two talking instead of working? I helped you by giving your son this great job, and you're so ungrateful." This got Nick worked up. Nick and his father were surprised by the sudden outburst and found the courage to defend themselves. But how would their snooty boss react to this newfound boldness? Nick couldn't help himself. Todd had constantly bullied his father, and he couldn't watch it any longer. He told Todd, "We were having a quick break to chat, and you just happened to come in right this second." Still, Todd couldn't be reasoned with. He kept on spewing hurtful words to them, not knowing that he would eventually regret it. "You're such a cheeky boy. And to think I was coming to give you both your paychecks," he said nastily. He threw the envelopes down at the two men, and Nick's father hurried to pick them up before his son could say anything else. When Nick took the money from his dad, he realized that there was cash missing. This was much less than what Todd had promised to pay. Nick wondered if the man had been doing this to his father all along, and he started becoming furious again. Nick couldn't hold back his anger anymore. He faced Todd directly and asked him why they were only receiving such a low salary after their hard work. Todd was completely taken by surprise. Still, that didn't mean that he would back down. He only sneered at Nick. "Young man, that's all you get for being uneducated." And that wasn't all he said. The next thing that came out of Todd's mouth made Nick shake with rage even more. Todd looked at them from head to toe and smirked. "Be grateful for what you have before it's taken away from you," he told the father and son. After that, he walked away, leaving Nick and his father in utmost disbelief. Nick was at the point of rage while the father looked down in shame. When he was sure that Todd was finally gone, Nick faced his father and asked him how he's put up with this treatment for so long. His father looked at him sadly and told him that he had no choice. "I don't think I could get another job, son." Todd's cleaning business was the only company that accepted him. He also had more pressing issues that he hadn't told his son about, and this was the main reason why he didn't want to leave his job. He realized it was time to break the news to his son. Nick's father went on to say that he was staying with Todd because he had to pay his mortgages. His dad shared, "If I lose this job, I will have to move out of my house." Nick felt pity for his father. He didn't know this before. The news gave Nick the determination he needed to get out of this situation. He wanted to prove to his father and Todd that an uneducated person could do something great. Nick also wanted his dad to be happy and not worry about bills anymore. Since day one of working for Todd's toxic company, Nick wanted to quit. The employees weren't treated with respect or kindness. He just stayed for that long because he wanted to help his father, but after seeing his hero be bullied, he'd had enough. Now, he knew that he couldn't successfully help his old man if both of them stayed in this kind of environment. Finally, Nick made his decision and chose to take a leap of faith. But how would everyone react to this? As Nick told his father what he planned to do, the old man grew worried. "Son, I don't think that's such a good idea." Nick was confused. His father usually supported his decisions, and he couldn't understand what was wrong now. His dad replied, "I need to tell you something, and I need you to listen carefully." Alarmed by this response, Nick took it seriously and waited for the explanation. "You see, I had a dream once about starting my own business, but things took a tragic turn," his dad said. He didn't want his son to make the same mistake and hoped he could persuade him to just be happy with what he has. The father knew he had to tell his son why things hadn't worked out for him. He knew it would help Nick give up the American dream idea. Would Nick give up so easily? Opening his own business was a traumatic experience for Nick's father. He used all his money to print flyers for his own cleaning business, but nobody hired him. He tried and tried until his money ran dry. This is the reason why I have kept up with working for Todd. I needed the money then, and I need it now. His dad let out a sigh as he uttered those words. However, Nick was not swayed by the story of his father. He had set his heart on a specific goal. He would become a great CEO of a cleaning company. He assured his father that he would do the heavy lifting and take all the responsibilities. He was ready to follow his American dream, and he wanted his old man not to worry. So, he looked his dad straight in the eye and said, "Don't worry, Dad, I will make our lives better, even if I die trying." Knowing he couldn't stop his son any longer, the old man decided to give his support. When Nick was about to leave, he called him. The father held out his hand and said, "Here's a little help to get your business running." The father had handed over his entire paycheck. Even though it was a small amount, it meant a lot to Nick, especially after learning what his dad was going through. Tears filled Nick's eyes. But the old man wasn't done. He also had some advice for his son. Nick almost found himself in tears when he heard what his father said. The old man told him, "Don't give up even when things get tough. I think that was my problem, but you, Nick, are a far greater man than I am. I love you, son." Nick hugged his dad and promised that he would persevere. He walked out of the building without saying a word to Todd. He would show that man one day. Nick's greatest asset was his age and his charming nature. He felt confident that his business would be a success. He quickly put a plan of action together. Nick found himself walking with a spring in his step. But was this optimism well placed? Only time would tell. Nick did not waste time. He stayed up late every night working on his slogan to launch his new business. He soon printed out his flyers and afterward went out into the streets to hand them to the passers-by. With a big smile on his face and with a heart that was ready to do the job, he enthusiastically greeted strangers on the street. As the day went by and the sun started to set, nobody was interested in his service. The outcome was not at all what he expected. When Nick was planning out this new venture, he pictured that he would get several clients by a few days. Sadly, reality hit him hard. Days and weeks went by, and he still received no calls. His flyers were also running out, and the money his dad gave him was almost gone. He felt like such a failure and thought about giving up. When a month went by and nobody had asked for his service, Nick planned to quit. He couldn't do it anymore. What's the use of giving out flyers on the street without gaining any customers? He's just wasting his time and money. He was about to throw all of his flyers out when he remembered something important. At his lowest point, Nick was reminded of his father's words. He thought about how his father had advised him not to quit no matter what. He felt guilty that he decided to quit so early. With renewed energy, Nick picked up his flyers and set out to the street once again. He knew that his father was right, that quitting too early would bring him no good. Nick couldn't let his father down, especially with what he had sacrificed. He continued to give out flyers and was able to network with different people. Little by little, Nick found joy in what he was doing. Soon, he knew that his hard work would pay off. After some time, Nick received calls from potential clients. People liked Nick's energy and were interested in what he had to offer. Nick was happy that he didn't quit and stuck to his word. His business grew even more extensive, and soon he was able to build a team and expand his client database. As Nick's company grew, he was ecstatic that he could also give struggling people jobs. He thought to himself, "I need to be a better employer than Todd, someone who treats their staff well." He had enough bad experiences with Todd, and he doesn't want to be the kind of boss who terrorizes his employees. Because of this mindset, his business soon started booming, and his employees were always happy. But there was one bitter person. Nick's fair nature and alluring smile brought in 5-star ratings and lots of referrals. This meant he had to look for even more staff, and some of his teammates from Todd's were eager to join. Through his practices, he became such a successful businessman. He gained so much, and he knew it was time to give back to one particular person. Nick had vowed that he wouldn't go back to his father until he had reached his goal. Feeling pride in his father, he wanted to surprise his dad with this achievement. When he was sure that he could finally pay for his dad's mortgage, that's when he called him. "Dad, I have some great news to share with you," he began, then decided the news was better shared in person. When Nick came to find his father, he was irritated to see that he was with Todd. It was like a bad flashback of when they were still working together. Toxic Todd was threatening to fire his father. Nick was so angry that the old man was still being treated that way. However, he was glad Todd was around. It was time to show Todd who was a boss now. When Todd was about to give the old man his pay, Nick decided that it was the moment to show Todd who he was up against. Nick came closer and stated, "My father won't be working for you anymore, and he doesn't need your money." The two men were surprised by his arrival. Todd laughed, "Oh, I see, the ungrateful brat is back." Before he could come up with more insults, Nick interrupted him with his own news. In front of Todd, Nick presented his father with a check that had all the money to pay off the house mortgage. The old man could not believe his eyes. He was so delighted that he was at a loss for words. Todd stood frozen and in awe. He didn't know what to do or say at that moment. All he could do was stare at the vast amount that was written on the check. Nick told his father, "You don't need to work for Todd anymore, Dad. I can take care of you now." At that moment, Todd seemed to have understood what was happening. He angrily looked at Nick's father and told him that he couldn't quit. "You have more tasks to do. You can't leave just like this. Your son's business will fail soon and you'll come crawling back," was his frustrated plea. But it was too late. At that moment, the old man was so happy and was so proud of his son. He didn't care about the things he had to clean anymore and hugged his son with both hands. Nick's father was still in awe of the good news. He knew that Nick had finally succeeded in his American dream. It was the old man's turn to look at Todd and tell him what he thought. The old man looked Todd up and down in the same manner Todd had always looked at him. He then remembered something that Todd had told him and Nick some time ago. He directly looked at Todd's eyes and boldly declared, "Be grateful for what you have, or it might be taken away from you." The father and the son smiled and slowly walked together towards their new future. But there was more in store for the father. The old man asked Nick to tell him how it all happened. He was so proud to know that his son never gave up, and together they drove to the house they now owned. Nick excitedly shared all the details and also told his dad to get ready to meet the staff of his company. He had always planned that his dad would be a co-owner. But how would the father react to that? Now both father and son co-owned the company. With their just and respectful leadership, they helped many people. They even competed against Todd's business and got the upper hand as more employees wanted to work with them. Indeed, our treatment and attitude toward other people will have a way of coming back to us. We should always be kind, because people who are at the bottom now won't always be that way. What did you think of this story? Don't forget to share.